Lenovo X1 Carbon. I have never, ever played with an X1 Carbon and everybody raves about how great they are. So is it what it's all cracked up to be? Or should you be looking at something else? We're gonna figure this out in about 10 to 12 minutes. Maybe more. This is the beauty, X1 Carbon. Why does it have a red nipple in the middle of the screen? Why does it have a red nipple in the middle of the keyboard? We're gonna figure that out in just a second. But first things first, this thing feels really nice. It's got this kind of rubberized texture to it. It's not really rubber, obviously. Just about see it there, but look at those fingerprints. That doesn't work for me and I'm not a very oily person. I don't like that, but it feels really soft, really gentle. It's got a beautiful finish on the bottom, no sharp edges. It's nice in the hand. It feels like it's a decent weight. I'm gonna throw some specs up on the screen while I'm talking to you here. But it feels like a nice laptop. And I gotta tell you, 14-inch I think is a really good sweet spot. I wish MacBook Air was a little bit bigger. I wish Surface Laptop was a little bit bigger. 14, 14.4, 14.3, I think is a great size for a pretty portable laptop that you can do real work on. I know you can get the 12s and that kind of stuff, but it's tough to get real stuff done. So I'm liking this. And then while we're looking at the outside of this, let's check out these ports because this is impressive for a laptop this size. I have got USB-A right here. Look at that baby. It's a blue one, which means it's a high speed. I've got a headphone jack right here. And then over this side, I've got two. Read 'em and weep, baby, two. Thunderbolt, 4 ports, USB-C. I have another, holy moly, I do have another, USB-A. And then an HDMI. Love the fact that I don't need dongles to work. It's something I love about Windows laptops. I don't want to have to buy dongles. I don't have to remember to take dongles with me. They break, they fail, and all that kind of stuff. So connectivity-wise, this is a pretty solid machine, okay? Feel nice and lightweight. Let's talk about the actual device itself when using it, because one of the things that I really struggle with on Lenovo devices, and if you haven't used one, you need to be aware of this, because it's a big one, okay? They just insist on messing with the keyboards. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, put the keys where they're supposed to be. Control goes on the bottom left. Function key goes next to it. We don't start with the function key because Mikey's little pinky has too much muscle memory for that. And I press the function key all the time and I don't go for the control. It's a Lenovo thing and I don't get it. All the major manufacturers put out pretty standardized keyboards. I don't know why they do this. And I'm telling you, it will be a problem. If you haven't used one of these, and you are used to using something with a regular keyboard layout, I strongly recommend you check this out. The other keys that are going to really bother you here, page up and down, and the arrow keys. Completely different format to what you would get on a standard American keyboard, and I think it's the wrong move. I think it's a bad move, and it's going to cause you problems. Eventually, is your muscle memory going to change? Maybe. But do you really want it to have to? Because then what happens if you leave Lenovo and decide to go buy something else? Now you're going to have that same whole problem all over again. And it's those little things that matter when you're looking for a trusty workhorse that's just going to get the job done. With a laptop, when I'm going out of the house and I'm going to the office or wherever it is that I'm going on a plane or whatever, I don't want to have to think about anything. It's why Apple nailed it with the battery life on the MacBook. I never have to worry and think, did I charge it last night? Even if I didn't, who cares? It goes 2 days or 3 days because I don't sit on it for 8 hours a day. I use it for an hour or two and then I put it away. And I think that's where we've got with mobile computing is we just want no friction. We just want to not care. I just want to open a lid and get to my work on the screen and I don't want to have to think about anything. I don't want to think about the layout of the keyboard. I don't want to have to think about how the keyboard feels or is a trackpad going to work? And now, I just want it to work. On the subject of keyboards, while we are talking about this keyboard, still got these kind of shaped keys. I kind of like it. There's a little bit more travel here. So if you like your keyboards to have that extra millimeter or two of travel, Lenovo could be your friend. Way more travel than a Surface laptop keyboard, which is my current favorite Windows laptop. Way more travel than my MacBook Air keyboard, which is my current favorite Apple keyboard. I've got many choices really because that's the current MacBook Air, but whatever. Definitely a little bit more travel. I personally don't like it. I find it a little bit too much, but as I'm pressing on the keys, you definitely know you're pressing and you definitely feel it gets there in the end. So this is the Lenovo X1 Carbon webcam test. I actually got this bad boy flattened out so that I'm not kind of low down like a typical webcam, which would be more of a, kind of like this. But I've just lifted it, get my words out, but I've lifted it up and got it flat so I can get the height, and the cam is actually right at the right level. Got it balanced on my knees. I'm going to show you a shot actually so you can see how we did this. But this is the cam. This is 1080p. I kind of feel like I look a little washed out here on the Lenovo screen. Obviously, it's going to look different on your screen because that's how it works. But on this screen, the blacks and the depth of the color is definitely a little bit washed out. I've got the brightness set on full brightness here. So, it is the 1900 by 1200 screen. Probably if I was buying this for real for me, I'd want to upgrade and get a slightly nicer quality display. The other thing that's really unique about the ThinkPads is something that I'm old enough to remember in the good old days before trackpads existed. That's right. Did you know laptops used to not have trackpads? I remember having a little ball that was like a roller ball, and that would move the mouse. And then I think it was Toshiba, I may be wrong, but I think it was Toshiba that originally came out with the nipple. And it's this little thing in the middle of the keyboard here. And as you press on it, you can't feel it moving, but it feels the pressure and it moves where you're going. It's like a little joystick. That's probably a good way to think about it. And so Toshiba obviously don't have that anymore on their laptops. They've gone to trackpads, but Lenovo stuck with it. And by golly, did they stick with it. Listen, for people who are used to it, they will swear by this. And it's an interesting move because I'm guessing it's kept Lenovo some serious business customers. The challenge with it and the way that they've implemented it, now that there is a trackpad, is that the left and right mouse buttons to go with the nipple are actually at the top of the trackpad, which if you use the nipple, that makes sense because it's where your finger and thumb are naturally going to rest. The problem is it shrinks the height of the trackpad. And so what I found in use is this trackpad to me is almost as unusable as a Surface Pro trackpad. It's too short top to bottom. And as you scroll in your finger to move around the screen, I'm constantly catching it on the top of the trackpad where it hits the buttons. And it's irritating and I don't like it. It's irritating enough that it would stop me keeping this as a daily Windows device. And I'm disappointed about that because I really had high expectations. But it's amazing what things matter and how far we've come now that we take the basics for granted. It's powerful enough, it's got plenty of memory, 16 gig, 512 SSD, 1900 by 1200 resolution screen, and I paid like $1,140 for it or something at Lenovo's website. So price and performance wise, 1240p chip, 12th generation P-series processor for performance. It's got all the things on paper that sound like it should be decent. But I've told you before, Uncle Mikey says so, okay? Don't let benchmarks fool you. Look at these benchmarks as I'm throwing them up here. This is an exact comparison of 16 gig to 16 gig, 512 to 512, 1240p, 1240p, Dell XPS Plus versus Lenovo. Geekbench, the Dell edge is ahead. Cinebench, the Lenovo edge is ahead. But it's interesting. And then I'm going to show you some benchmarks comparing to a MacBook Air in my comparison review of that. So check it out when it drops in a few days. It's going to do what you want it to do. I mean, this is not a video editing powerhouse. This is not the machine to use as a workstation, but for an everyday laptop to get the job done, it's got all that you need. So what else is going on here? Well, let's look at this screen. Let me show you some pictures. Let me show you some videos. The screen looks pretty decent. It is a matte finish. It's not touch and it doesn't have glass on it. I like no glass for the lack of reflectivity. You're not going to get a lot of glare on this screen because of that. So if you work in bright spaces, you may find that a big plus. But the downside is, I still think, and I say this a lot, when they put the glass on and it's tinted or it's treated or whatever it is that they do to it, it draws the depth and the dark colors out better. And so then this doesn't look quite as vibrant as a screen that's glassed. The other issue I've got at this price point with this screen is I personally would rather trade off the screen to get something like a Surface Laptop 5, even if it means I've got to go slightly lower on spec, because most of what I do is in a browser. Google Workspace, social media stuff, news, whatever it is I'm shopping, all that fun stuff. So the 16 versus 8 gig doesn't really worry me, and price for price, dollar for dollar, I can get 8 gig 512 or 8 gig 256 on a Surface for about the same price as this. But I get touchscreen. I get a higher resolution screen with its Pixel Sense magic, and the colors look magnificent on the Surface laptop. Same with the Surface Pro, where you even get 120 Hertz. And so I think that's where Microsoft have been smart, and some of these other guys are still going to catch up because Dell has the same issue. They bring the price down to pay for the chip upgrade and the memory upgrade by giving you a slightly inferior screen experience. But it's the screen I look at all day long, Mr. Lenovo. That's the most important thing. Like, that's where my eyeballs go. And it's really, really important. And it's not that it's a bad screen. I'm just saying there are other options out there that are going to be a little bit nicer for similar money. So keep that in mind depending on how you use the device. And then we get to battery life. The elephant in the room when it comes to Windows devices. Okay? Is this going to get you 10, 11 hours of battery life? I don't think so. It's been better for me than the Surface Laptop 5, which has still been a letdown. I've still been using it on and off, and I really haven't even got to 10% an hour, and I don't know why. It's kind of freaking me out, because in the Windows world, to me, if I can get 10% an hour, maybe 11% an hour, that feels okay. I can get 8-ish, 9-ish hours. That's pretty decent for a Windows laptop. I think you're going to get close to that here. 7 to 8 pretty decently and comfortably, as long as you're not pushing it and you're not running that screen on full brightness. So in that respect, I do think it's a win. But overall, I'm really struggling because I like it more than the Dell XPS. The build quality, it is solid. I mean, it feels sturdy. It feels like a solid close. There's not a lot of flex in it. I can't really twist and bend. I love the feel of it. Lots of things going for it here from a build quality perspective. I would say from the machines I've tested this year in 2022, this is probably only beaten by Microsoft with their Surface devices for actual build quality. I think it is better than anything else out there. So if durability matters to you, and it should, because we throw them in our bags and we don't want them to not work when we get to where we're going. So it sounds like this device has almost got it all. Solid keyboard with a little bit more travel, pretty decent trackpad if you can get past the buttons and a little red nipple staring at you all day, every day. Great connectivity, awesome feel and durability, definitely a solid, well-built laptop, no flex, great ports. It feels awesome in the hand, and it really is only second to Microsoft and their incredible Surface line, where the build quality is just, it's the top dog in the Windows world. In my opinion right now, this comes in second place. Till next time. I went for a job interview today, and the guy says to me, "Here, sell this laptop," and he hands it to me. So I put it under my arm, walked out the store, went home. He called me up 2 days later, he's like, "Dude, what are you doing? Where's my laptop?" I said, "I'll sell it to you for $100.